I'm actually getting a positive vibe of Israel is stronger here than over there. What do you think?
It says that before the light, the revelation of the light, the darkness becomes the greatest.
Yeah.
Because in order for new light to come into the world, the old light has to recede. And so if a person's addicted to the old ways, the old light, the old definitions of success, so then all you're seeing is lack of success, drudgery, and danger. But if you're opening up your eyes to the opportunities in the future, that are opening up in the future, and you're seeing that we're living in a world where communication channels have opened up a millionfold over the last 10 or 20 years. Where people are communicating over distances and over culture gaps that has never been before. Where the opportunity to change people's minds is in a split of a second. So if you look from an opportunistic perspective, the opportunities are endless. If you look at it from predictability, how much predictability is there? There's much less predictability. If you're addicted to predictability, you're not liking this world. But if you're into opportunities, then this is the world for you.
So in fact, you're very optimistic, and in fact, I'm not Israeli like my friend here who lives in Australia. I'm a Canadian who lives in England. But a lot of Israelis panic about the future of their country, but their country seems to have a great future viewed from the Jerusalem perspective. From your perspective, it's very positive. And you're not worried about all the ICs and the slitting throats and all the stuff happening. That can't touch you, right?
Look, we want the violence to end. We don't want there to be any more evil in the world, and so that's why we have to live seriously. We have to take these things seriously. We have to take it as a message, personal message in our lives, that we have to make ourselves better in order to make the world better. But if we're going to do that, we have to believe that it's all leading up to a very soon it's gonna reveal itself to be purely goodness, and so. A person who's living pessimistically is not going to tap into the opportunities. A person who's living optimistically, and that's what you see is the message of the scriptures. You never see Moses saying, "Oh, I don't know if we'll get to the land. I have doubts." You never see Moses doing that. Why? Because that's a person who's truly connected to God. He knows we're on a process here. We're on a path. If you're walking on the path, so then you're never stopping.
We've gone on a bus trip around this area. We've gone by the Mount of Olives. We've gone, but you can see all these huge cemeteries. You can actually see it through the trees there if you zoom through the graves there. Is that the Mount of Olives, that big mountain there?
Yes, exactly up there.
That is the Mount of Olives. Now for English people, the Mount of Olives is significant because Robert Maxwell, the former Labour MP, is buried there. And the significance is Robert Maxwell was the man who made sure that Israel had guns to defend themselves in 1948. If it hadn't been for Robert Maxwell, they wouldn't have had the guns, and the Arabs would have wiped Israel off the map in 1948. So that's why he's buried in the Mount of Olives. Anyway, let's now go on our journey into, this is the old city. And what part of the old city is this?
Next to the Kotel.
Next to the Kotel. Okay, let's go. Last week we were in the Kotel, but I didn't get in front of the cameraman. So now I'm going to lead you all into the Kotel. Isaac, I'm asking you now, that big thing there, what is it?
Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Al-Aqsa Mosque?
Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Okay, that is the very famous Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, the significance of the Al-Aqsa Mosque is it's not significant at all, except there are hundreds of conspiracy theories the Arabs have about how Jews want to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Why anybody would want to destroy it, I don't know. But throughout the Arab world and the Muslim world, every day Muslims think about how Israel is planning to destroy it. They have every conspiracy theory under the sun. You can go on Wikipedia and look it up, but that's the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Follow me now. These people are happy. People in Tel Aviv, where we've been living, they're all existential and get depressed. They worry about the future of Israel. They have one baby per family. These people, they dance all the time. They're happy. They have 8 babies. The future of Israel does not depend upon the intellectuals of Tel Aviv. It's on these people continuing to have babies, continuing to dance, and continuing to be happy because they are religious. They believe in God. They believe in the Messiah. And that's what keeps them going. That's what keeps Israel going. Right. Earlier, I was talking about the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is right there. And I mistakenly said it wasn't significant, but it's actually very significant because the Muslims built the Al-Aqsa Mosque right on the location of the second Jewish temple, where the Holy of Holies is. This is the holiest place in Judaism, and the Muslims built their mosque on top of it. When was this stuff actually uncovered?
Since then, nobody is allowed to do any excavation around the old city. But only in some places they are doing excavation, but to make such big excavation, it's impossible.
And this is down to the government of Jordan?
Yeah.
The WAFT?
The Waqf.
Yeah, it's the government of Jordan. That's Moshe Dayan. He gave the government of Jordan the right to control this. So have they actually, before, when they occupied this for 20 years, did they actually destroy any Jewish?
I think since the last 3,000 years, each period, the Romans, the Christians, they destroyed the previous structures and buildings that they were before. And what you can see in front of here, it's different periods because people never destroy everything. They just build on top. They cover and build on top, cover and build on top.
Okay, so
If you keep excavating, you will find remains from the time of the first temple and much older.
but nobody's allowed to dig here
Yeah, no.
until Jordan loses control.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, where are you from?
I'm from Russia.
Russia. Okay. And how long have you lived in Israel?
All my life, I'm here since I'm 2 years old.
2 years old. Okay. Lovely country.
Yeah.
Lovely country. It's my first time here, and it's the first time I've actually seen this. This is my third trip to Jerusalem. You live in Jerusalem. What is it like with the intifadas and all this stuff going on all the time and the rock throwing? Is it actually a tense city to live in, or is that exaggerated in the press?
I think that this is it's kind of intense, but it's intense for the people who come to visit, and for us, we kind of get used to it.
You get used to it. So, you have Arab friends?
Yeah, of course, many Arab. We are also working with Arabs, Muslims, and Arabs Christians. We are doing the same job, and inside the work, we're talking about politics, but it's not something.
Yeah, but nobody's slitting anybody's throat.
No, of course not.
Okay, but do you find that tourists bring a bit of intensity to the city? Like all these Christian tourists?
Is it they bring intensity?
Yeah.
No, of course not. Of course not. Tourists, they're always welcomed in Israel and in any place. I think tourists make the situation more calm than intense. Yeah, of course.
So, in fact, although there's the odd riot here in parts of Arab Jerusalem, it's nothing serious that's going to go on forever. It's nothing to worry about.
About I didn't.
For the state of Israel, this sort of thing is normal.
What's going now around?
Yeah, well, just when they have like the riots they had last week.
Always the situation can be better, but we are living this way in the last 60, 70 years. I think the situation became better.
Okay, one more question, which is totally unrelated. Have you heard of Jerusalem syndrome?
Yeah, of course. I see many of them around. Yeah.
Could you describe what a person with Jerusalem syndrome does?
It depends. It's not one kind of syndrome. It's Jerusalem syndrome. It's usually people that they have a kind of a mental illness before they came to Jerusalem. It's not like people that they don't have anything
It's not like they crack up.
So they already have any mental problem, and then when they come to Jerusalem, they start to feeling all the spirituality in the air and stuff like this.
So what did they do? I mean, do you see guys running around with crosses trying to pretend to be Jesus?
Some of them they are wearing like Jesus. They are walking barefoot and making long hair and telling everybody that doomsday coming and stuff.
So it's quite amusing.
Yeah, sometimes once a week or once a month you can see.
So, but you don't think beyond that, on a deeper level, do you think that a lot of the people who come to this city have a deeper version of Jerusalem syndrome, that they're obsessed with Jerusalem?
Yeah, of course. When you see all these churches and all these excavations, and when you read a little about the history of the places you are walking, and of course it's related to the religious you are. If you're a Christian, then you know that Jesus walked here, and all the crucifixion way where he passed, and then you start feeling like.
Well, for my last question, have you actually seen a John the Baptist guy? Or like a Saul of Tarsus? Or is it just basically Jesus in here?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They're coming, a lot of them, but I don't...
I want to get a picture of somebody with Jerusalem, so I'm hoping to catch a picture.
You can stay here for a week or two, and for sure you will meet one.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Alex.
You're welcome.
Cafe?
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
תקשיב, אם אנחנו תופסים את כל הקבוצה הזאת לעזור לנו בשנה שעברה. תקשיב, אבל יש להם חיים קצת בעיה.
This is the Western Wall, built 2,000 years ago at the time of King Herod. This is the center of all the madness that we're having today in the world. The Arab-Israeli conflict, the Christian-Arab conflict, the Crusaders. Everything began in this city because, of course, Judaism starts in this city, and Christianity is an offshoot. It's Judaism light. Judaism where you don't need to be circumcised. Judaism where you don't have to follow all 613 laws. Saul of Tarsus, who was a complete madman, decided to sell Jesus as the Son of God to the West as a way of exporting a sort of cult of Judaism, and he succeeded brilliantly. It took a few centuries for the Church of Rome to embrace this, but it's the only way that Europe became a modern, civilized continent was by embracing old Roman and Greek philosophy and the past and combining that with the Jewish Christianity that helped create the modern world that we live in today. And people talk about the Templars and the Crusaders and all of this stuff. That all begins here. All the madness, all the battles, all the Islam actually doesn't begin here, but the Muslims claim ownership of this anyway, because in the Quran they wrote that Muhammad went to heaven here in Jerusalem. I don't believe it, but I don't believe in any of this stuff. But I'm telling you now, all the madness begins here. So maybe Jerusalem syndrome has taken on hold of the whole world for the last 2,000 years. It has its benefits in Jewish ethics, in Christian ethics, and it has its madness in slitting throats and ISIS. Okay, here we have it. The Western Wall, where even George Bush says a prayer. Don't you put a message? What's the thing about putting a note into the wall? How does that work?
And then all of your wishes come true, or best wish will come true.
Okay, I have to put a wish today for my neighbor Debbie that everything's going to go right with all her estates. So you have to help me with that.
Especially real estate.
Especially what?
Real estate, as you said.
Yeah, especially the real estate, because she's going through lots of problems and she doesn't deserve this. So if I can do that, put a note in this wall, then hopefully she actually believes it'll help. And she's totally secular. So maybe a bit of magic works sometimes in this world.
This is still the cotton.
This.
This is still a very long cotton.
Are they tallies or what? They're throwing stones.
And David, the king of Israel, is alive in a way.
Ah. That's what I mean, yeah.
People that come to the mall and they just stay here for months. They don't leave. They just sleep here, eat here. They get addicted to the freedom of it. be here in the world. Well,
A lot of them are Israelis.
well, mostly Israelis. The ones here at the wall are mostly Israelis. They come here and then they can't leave because it's so. There's free food. There's free everything's there's whatever you need. I mean, it's not really comfortable, but at the same time, they're kind of running away from the real world. So it's a very good place to
Run away from
run away from yourself, I guess. Run away from the world. There's quite a few of them around here. Some of them have been institutionalized, and then they still come back.
So, okay. What is it you think that causes it? Do you think they're just predisposed to be mentally ill?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, yeah.
It's not like you ride here and you're the same.
No.
And you just flip out.
For sure. It's always people that have a predisposition for either some kind of depression, maybe what they call it, deficiency, some kind of hormonal deficiency. You know, like today, like they find a lot of the mentally ill people, they have bipolar disorder, something like that. It's always someone that has some kind of imbalance, and then they come here, and then they, I think, they get addicted to the kind of like the mystical aspect of the place, and there's something here. There's something here that's different. There's something here for sure. Everyone here feels there's something special and different.
Do you feel that?
Of course. If all Jewish people have a special vision and a special ability to see beyond the natural reality. We all see that there's something beyond nature. Like for instance, in the last war, all these miracles that happen. You know, you see a miracle, you say, "Wow, that's a miracle." God is interfering in the physical world and making this thing. But in certain places, that realization is stronger. And here is the place where it's really, where it's most visceral.
So when you're looking at the Western Wall, which is the remains of the temple, which was destroyed in 70 AD, or was it 135? It was destroyed in 70 AD, wasn't it? Okay. And on the other side, what is on the other side of the wall?
On the other side is the house of God.
Exactly. Okay.
So why is it called the house of God? Why is it called the house of God? What is it about? What is it about that makes the house of God more than any other particle in the universe? God is everywhere.
Yeah.
So the answer is that that's where God is most revealed.
Okay.
God is everywhere. He's unlimited. You can't limit him to any particular space or time. But that place is where he chose to reveal himself more than anywhere else in creation. So here, so people come here, they see it, they feel it. It's very felt. That's what you see. Why do millions of people come here? Why are they so turned on by this? Because what is there to see here? It's like nothing. Why are they so turned on by it? Because there's over time, people see that there's something. They feel something different here. They maybe make some kind of change in their life. Maybe they go back to change people. I don't know. I haven't interviewed them. You know. Maybe.
I got another question. The Temple Mount, that's on top of it, behind upstairs. That is an area, thanks to the Moshe Dayan gave it to Jordan, right? What is up there for a Jew and a Christian and not a Muslim? What is up there in the Temple Mount? Tell me what's special about it.
At this point, there's nothing. It's only destruction. There's only destruction.
There's only destruction.
There's only destruction.
I keep seeing videos of people going
you
up
want
there.
You want to feel. You want to really be slapped in the face with what is going on in the world. You go up there, you see what is supposed to be a celebration of the harmony and beauty and truth is just being trampled upon.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing to see there now. Until the Messiah comes, we can't really see it with physical eyes what that place is supposed to be. Only when there's a temple and when the Jewish people are in control, then there will be a true revelation of what is supposed to be there and what's supposed to be in the rest of the world.
Now the second temple, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, is that on top of what was the site of the second temple?
Oh, we don't know.
You don't know. It's funny because if you were allowed to excavate, you would know.
Possibly, they say that you could know the place of the altar from the remains of the animal, the animal remains, and then maybe some kind of fossilized remains that would be under that. But the truth is that the most specific place in the temple is the place of the altar. The place of the altar never changes. That's the place where Adam, when he first offered up his first offering, that's the place where Abraham offered up Isaac. It's the exact same place, and so that place we can only know by prophecy. It has to come down into a prophet in the generation, and he'll tell us where that place is.
His name.
Yom syndrome.
His name is. What was his name?
Menachem Mendel Schneerson, Rabbi Schneerson.
And was he from Israel?
He was a Jew.
Yeah, but was he from Israel or was he from
No,
Europe?
he was born in Russia, and he moved to Germany, to France, and then eventually to America.
Okay, so he died 20 years ago. And so what was it about him that appealed to people? What was his message?
His vision was that the Jewish people was more alive after the Holocaust than before the Holocaust.
For the ones who are alive, that might be true.
No, but even those who were alive didn't believe it.
What does it mean?
The whole world didn't believe that the Jewish people had any future after the Holocaust. He was the only one who said that now the Jewish people have a real future. Now they're really going to start to flourish. In 1950, if you would have asked someone who was in the business of making sociological predictions if the Jewish religion was going to still be extant in a few years, they would tell you no future.
But in fact, what he says has come true because the Jewish people have come back very strong.
Of course.
Not just with the state of Israel,
Stronger than we've ever been.
stronger than ever,
we've ever
but
been.
also internationally.
At any other time in world history, the Jewish people are more faithful, more optimistic, more alive, more young, more rich, more healthy.
But also more fragile as well.
This is the true fulfillment of all the messianic prophecies as far as what the Jewish people are supposed to look like in the messianic times. This is look around you in the land of Israel. This is for sure how it's supposed to be.
Gog and Magog, catastrophe, and then
No, that's done with. We're basically living in the times that the prophets predicted. This is times of prosperity, times of peace, and all that we're waiting for is for the Messiah to come and redeem us. All we're waiting for. It's a big.
It's interesting
It's a big lacking.
because if you look at the Middle East now, the Arab world is at its worst ever. It's falling completely apart, but Israel thrives. I mean, you have to go into. I have friends from Syria and those countries. Their world has completely and utterly collapsed, and Jordan and Saudi are just holding on the edge of chaos.
They only say it's completely collapsed because for a long time they measured their success by the success of the top percentile, and really that's not the way God looks at it. God looks at every individual, and every individual has worth in God's eyes. And when there's a society that's built on one individual benefiting from many individuals suffering, that's not good in God's eyes. And so basically, what seems to the world as this catastrophe is actually a very positive and beneficial revelation of God's hand, God's desire that every individual in the world should be free to choose to have a good life, to have an ethical life. And
So-
until they free themselves from the shackles of barbarianism of this traditional society where one person decides for a million people, they can't make that decision. They can't live true ethical lives.
So maybe through disaster they'll rise out of it and change.
Every change requires some kind of shaking. But you see that it's happening in a way that is more peaceful than ever before in world history. Never has change been so, especially in such violent cultures. The fact that that's not even it's taken its toll, but compared to the violence of the people, it's minimal. These people, they've been living for thousands of years just by shedding blood. That's been their lifestyle, and so
What about the state of Israel? Now, there are various views. Tel Aviv syndrome says the state of Israel is terrible, it's falling apart. Europe hates us. And then I come over to Jerusalem, and it seems a lot more positive. So Jerusalem syndrome within Israel seems to be, I mean, I see these guys dancing and singing in there, you know, the, what were they called? Yeah. And they're completely different from the Tel Aviv cappuccino set. So I'm actually getting a positive vibe of Israel is stronger here than over there. What do you think?
It says that before the light, the revelation of the light, the darkness becomes the greatest.
Yeah.
Because in order for new light to come into the world, the old light has to recede. And so if a person's addicted to the old ways, and the old light, the old definitions of success, so then all you're seeing is lack of success, drudgery, and danger. But if you're opening up your eyes to the opportunities in the future, opening up in the future, and you're seeing that we're living in a world where communication channels have opened up a millionfold over the last 10 or 20 years. People are communicating over distances and over culture gaps that has never been before. Where the opportunity to change people's minds is in a split of a second. So if you look from an opportunistic perspective, the opportunities are endless. If you look at it from predictability, how much predictability is there's much less predictability. If you're addicted to predictability, you're not liking this world. But if you're into opportunities, then this is the world for you.
So in fact, you're very optimistic, and in fact, I'm not Israeli like my friend here who lives in Australia. I'm a Canadian who lives in England. But a lot of Israelis panic about the future of their country, but their country seems to have a great future viewed from the Jerusalem perspective. From your perspective, it's very positive. And you're not worried about all the ICs and the slitting throats and all the stuff happening. That can't touch you, right?
Look, we want the violence to end. We don't want there to be any more evil in the world, and so that's why we have to live seriously. We have to take these things seriously. We have to take it as a message, personal message in our lives, that we have to make ourselves better in order to make the world better. But if we're going to do that, we have to believe that it's all leading up to a very soon it's gonna reveal itself to be purely goodness, and so. A person who's living pessimistically is not going to tap into the opportunities. A person who's living optimistically, and that's what you see is the message of the scriptures. You never see Moses saying, "Oh, I don't know if we'll get to the land. I have doubts." You never see Moses doing that. Why? Because that's a person who's truly connected to God. He knows we're on a process here. We're on a path. If you're walking on the path, so then you're never stuck.
ברוך אתה, אדוני,
אלוהינו, מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להוניח תפילין.
ברוך אתה,
אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להתעטף
וציצית.
ברוך אתה אדוני,
אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחרבנו
מכל העמים,
ונתננו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה. שמע ישראל.
אדוני אחד, ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם
יפה מאוד.
David, I'll kill you.
No, the picture, we make a picture.
I become the joke.
Very happy. Hashem, God is very happy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
God is laughing.
Wonderful.
He's laughing. He's very joyful.
Wonderful. Very good. Thank you very much.
Now you're ready for a new year.
אוי,
This is a whole new
שנה
year.
טובה, תודה.
שנה טובה
Do you want me to
ומתוקה.
email you a
פעם
picture?
ראשונה בר מצווה.
Wait, do you want me to show you the
It's okay,
picture?
it's okay. I see this.
No, I'll show you a picture. I took.
אתה אולי לא תאמין, אבל אתה גם שינית את החיים שלנו.
תודה רבה.
כל אחד עוזר לשני.
זה לא האמנתי שיקרה לי היום. אתה רואה, it's not predictable, as you said, unpredictable.
Do you want a copy? Do you want me to email it to you?
שנה טובה.
תודה וחתימה טובה.
נכנעת כדי לעשות מצווה, אתה רואה? נגד הצומק.
How is that? Isaac, you're a star. You're an absolute star.
Let's go to the church now.
Okay.
Let's go to the mosque. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar.
No, we can't have any of that stuff.
Baby, don't film me. I got a syndrome.
Yeah.
I'm flying. I'm the Messiah. I'm the Messiah. Here.
I won't show this to Benji.
Don't show to anyone. Don't show to Benji. You're born Benjamin in short.
I was born named after my grandfather, who I didn't know, my father's father, Benno.
That's it, so you're always Benji.
I'm a Holocaust survivor.
But you're always Benji.
No,
Benjamin.
I never used the Benji until I started traveling the world. And until my daughter was born.
Okay,
Really?
well anyway, we met before then.
So you say, you
But you
have
don't
to forgive
remember
me,
me.
but I do not remember.
Okay, well that's okay.
And I
You-
don't forget faces. Even more, I don't remember.
I might have just met you in passing. You know when Tim and everybody was at the door, you know what I mean.
It could have been,
You might
but
have
then
been
you
coming
have an
over for dinner
absolutely
and
photographic memory, if that's true.
So I apologize anyway.
Well, for what?
By the way,
For Frank the manic aggressive? It's
Right.
okay. There were a lot of highly qualified people before you who believed that this was the same story. And it wasn't.
okay. Anyway, maybe it's something Lillian said at some point.
It also is possible. I can tell you a nice Lillian story which has to do with some of the subject matter of our visit to Jerusalem today. In one of the graveyards back home, in other words, Łódź, okay, one of the graveyards back home, one of the Jewish graveyards, I can't say exactly whose it was, but one of the members of Lillian's family had a tombstone which was a massive monument with the entire history, generation by generation by generation going back,
Which country?
in Poland, I believe.
Okay.
And there is a good chance, because the Nazis, in fact, didn't bulldoze Jewish cemeteries.
Of course I did.
They didn't. If you go to Prague today, you'll see the old Jewish cemetery as it was left in 1945. The Wehrmacht didn't level them. My father's grandmother was buried in Jewish cemetery number 4 in Vienna, and I have the photograph as it is right now.
But they did destroy many cemeteries. You know it.
It was probably selective where it was worth their while, okay? Lillian's tombstone, Lillian's family's tombstone, I can't attest exactly to where it was, went all the way back to what we call the House of David.
I think she told me that once, yeah.
I-
Levi or something.
I'm not here to tell you, Bubermeisters, to tell you stories of things which didn't exist, like the lady that had 8 miracles rained down upon her in the Syriac church. Okay?
Yeah.
I remember this as a story which Lillian told me, to attest to her fact of being of Messianic origin. That's it.
Messianic origin or simply King David origin?
If the top line, not the bottom line, if the top line was King David, then it was Messianic origin.
Not in Judaism. Not in Judaism.
Absolutely, yes, in Judaism. I know dozens of people who have the same family story. Including my friends, Kobi and Yoni, who built the exhibition.
As Hannah told you, not a big deal, Messiah.
Hannah told me it's not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
You're absolutely right. I've done as much as I possibly can to make it not a big deal. And by the way I did that was getting re-diagnosed and not being mildly manic depressive.
Oh, I feel bad. I really apologize.
You shouldn't feel bad. I simply cannot recall having bumped into you in this
Just in passing.
Snoop, what did you call it? The Snoop hole?
The Snoop hole.
The Snoop hole.
Just in passing. I met a lot of friends of Lillian's and Tim's and Isaac's just in passing.
I can give you an exact timetable because that was actually when I finished my European trip and got down to serious traveling because I decided to abandon any plan that I would make and just let things take me from one place to the next. And that continued another 6 years. At the end of that period of time, not at the end, but at a certain interval, I came back to the Snoop hole. I came back to the Snoop hole and my bed was taken.
That's life. Yes, I know.
And they looked after me when I was pretty much a raving lunatic.
Okay.
Somebody had slipped me, a friend had slipped me an Alice B. Toklas brownie.
Okay.
I'm not sure that Itzhaki actually knows the story of the Alice B. Toklas brownies.
Which one?
Gertrude Stein was the madam of the Paris salon, where most of the expatriate Americans living in were part of this. She had a girlfriend, a permanent live-in girlfriend, her partner in life, called Alice B. Toklas, and Alice B. Toklas. Alice B. Toklas was responsible for being the first purveyor of chocolate cakes with LSD inside them.
Hilarious.
One of my so-called good friends slipped me one of these, unbeknownst, and the rest is history. I was no longer diagnosed as being mildly manic depressive.
I miss the connection between
Alice B. Toklas?
between Gertrude Stein and you.
Somebody slipped me an Alice B. Toklas cookie. In other words, a chocolate cake with LSD inside.
Which
Sorry.
is very bad for you, LSD.
Which blew my head.
Yeah, it's very bad.
It actually took me close on 6 months to recover from that particular adventure.
That's death penalty for that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, my friend, my flatmate Omar took LSD all the time, but he can take it. I just wonder why. My boss at EMI, Michael, he was an acid dropping freak when he was at university.
Yeah.
And it's just, I just don't know how these people can do these chemical things to their bodies.
Basically by lack of in-depth knowledge about the biochemistry involved.
Chemistry involved. Right.
But I am the same Frank, mildly depressive, who until 4 short years ago was actually being treated by professionals and medicated on the basis of the assumption that what my DNA affliction was what it wasn't.
So he got it wrong.
It's not that they got it wrong, it's that they had it wrong for 4 decades. So all of my adventures in life, including things like marriage and family and bringing up a daughter and working my arse off to support the family, all these things were 3 times as difficult as they would be for anybody else. Every time there was another, which by the way never manifested itself in any kind of depressive way. at all. But it was diagnosed as something else, and when I got the right medication, then I could live like one of, normal human beings.
Well, my sister's been on depression medication since she was in her teens.
Okay. Not fun.
No, having a brother like me must have really pissed her off.
Not fun.
And she couldn't. I mean, she told me just a few years ago. Well, you never noticed me in my teens when I was depressed. That's why she didn't go to university.
You'll excuse me, Mr.
Yeah.
Boss. גבוש, אנחנו שותים קפה בבית המלון של סמיר, שלושתנו, ואז אנחנו בדרך חזרה לאגד פה בירושלים. נו, גובוש, היה לנו יום מתיש עם הכל של הכל. אני יכול להעביר אותך שנייה ליצחקי?
And like Jeffrey, and there were other people there too, and I think there was that American couple.
You remember Jeffrey? It's funny.
Jeffrey, no, I really liked him. I went out with him a few times myself.
I feel really guilty. I never kept in touch with him.
Yeah, no, I did after you
You
left.
ever seen Jeffrey?
I really don't recall who Jeffrey was, unless he was Schlüssel.
You remember?
He was a
Esther?
Mancunian Jew.
Remember Esther?
Of course, Esther Wind.
Esther and Jeffrey live in the same house.
And Esther is still in London?
Esther?
Esther Wind.
Esther Wind is now she's now called Esther Levine.
Okay.
Married to Sam.
Married to Sam and living in London?
In Melbourne, next to me.
In Melbourne, next to you.
Next to me.
Okay.
Sam is my best mate. Sam's mom.
1-0 to you. I didn't have you sussed out.
What do you mean suss out?
You know what I mean. In Manchester, when a person says, I'll suss you out, it's English slang, English working class slang for, I got you figured.
Okay.
Okay? You can try and pull the wool over my eyes, but I got you figured.
Okay, well, I don't like pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. I'm not that sort of person.
You'll just have to forgive me, David. I remember everyone in my life called David because that was the name of my brother.
Okay.
It was the name of Lillian's family, the House of David.
Yes, of course.
And there is every possibility, unprovable at this stage, that Isaac is also from the House of David as a prince.
Certainly.
As a Sephardi prince.
As Sephardi, very good.
In other words, emanating from Spain, from the golden
Yeah.
age of Spain, which is one side of his family. He's got a double side because he's also got a South American element. His mother.
Oh, yeah, his mother, yes, of course. Yes, as I found out last week from his sister.
Do you think I'm going to get divorced if we don't start making a move in the direction of the...
What did the wife say?
I don't know. You spoke to her. I'm not her control. She is mine.
If you want to head back, we can. I'm sorry if I've held everybody
Not
up.
at all.
I'm just enjoying the vibe
It's
of
beautiful here.
Jerusalem.
I don't recall that we were given a deadline.
No.
It's almost like I've been in a theme park and the city doesn't really exist. You know what I mean? It's almost like a theme park.
Welcome to Jerusalem. This is the ultimate service.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate Ringling Brothers 3-ring circus.
It's so clean.
Jerusalem is not clean. Jerusalem is covered with 3,000 years of blood.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my good friends who really understood a thing or two, she was an artist. And I came to her with some of my initial ideas about Jerusalem and projects and this, that, and the other, and said, listen, my good friend, you want to get anything changed in Jerusalem in any way, you have to get down with a spachtel, with a triangular plasterer's knife, and scrape off 3,000 years of bloodshed from the flagstones. Then start.
You can't.
Can't do
You can't clean the blood, Lindsay. The blood is forever.
Every time, Itzhaki, I have thought of lifting my hands and saying, I'm going home, I'm going to look after my family. To hell with Jerusalem, to hell with whatever plans. I come very close to saying, you can't. And something happens that I get a little push forward, a little dose of optimism, and I meet yet another outstanding personality in Jerusalem that actually says discreetly, you can do it, go for it.
Good.
Like the two brothers who own this hotel.
Yeah.
And whose family has been the owners of this hotel for decades. In other words, they're the leading Palestinian, Jerusalem, Arab families.
What's the name?
The name of the family is Farwaji.
Kawaji.
Farwaji. And this was Shukri, the one who was sitting here when we came here. And the one who was just leaving is my really good friend, Samir.
Ah, yes, the one we met
And our
earlier.
coffee, he would like it to be gin and tonic. Yeah, he's okay because he's a Christian and he's from the Latin Church. In other words, he's a Roman Catholic.
He's a Christian.
Yeah.
So,
His good friend and my good friend, the architect, is from the Abu Shanab family. And he sometimes calls himself Peter, sometimes he calls himself Butrus, and if you happen to be the chairman of the United Nations, you call yourself Butrus. So I usually call him when we meet Butrus.
so even Christians don't like to speak Hebrew.
No?
No, it's true.
As close as they are culturally and morally and spiritually to Arab Christians in the Holy Land, alongside Israelis. For example, we met someone today from one of the two Copts. One of them was from Rameh.
Yeah.
They were both Druze. One of them was from Rameh. The leading Arab actress in this country, who I said also was sent to participate in the Eurovision. She speaks perfect Hebrew. She's an actress. And even she is in a delicate situation here.
If I can change that, if you try to completely cut out Jerusalem out of your life, you're saying it's impossible or
No, I think
undesirable,
it's
or
not desirable, but it is possible theoretically if the bigger prize was Mali.
miss the point. What do you mean?
Mali is the Holy Grail. I didn't go into this with David, but the bottom line is that the Holy Grail is Mali. Exactly as in the Dan Brown book, the Holy Grail is a person or a place. It is not a chalice. All that was whitewashing, deliberately misleading people to understand.
I meant really cut out spiritually.
Yeah, and I say
If
so
you-
quite,
if I forget Jerusalem.
quite unspiritually. I will not forget Jerusalem, but I will make it beyond the bounds of what is to
so
be
it's
dealt
completely
with.
part of you, eternally part of you.
It cannot be otherwise. It was from the very first moment when I was 18 years old that I set foot in Jerusalem. I knew it then.
But you don't have to live here.
It's not that I don't have to live here. I crave for a good reason to have in order to live here.
But
And
if
it
you just
won't
have
happen.
Jerusalem spiritually,
won't
can live
happen.
in Warsaw, can live in Krakow, and
Yes, theoretically,
Yeah.
that's what the Jews in exile did for 2,000 years. Next
Jerusalem
year in
shel Mala.
Jerusalem. Celestial Jerusalem.
Yes.
I'm much too rooted today in earthly Jerusalem to give up, especially when I'm so close. You have to understand that Frank the mild manic depressive was actually diagnosed with something a lot more severe, which
is
prevented him from drawing a livelihood, in being employable, and above everything else, actually having an understanding that it was either Jerusalem or sanity.
Jerusalem or sanity.
Or sanity.
Jerusalem or sanity. all the time.
Jerusalem or sanity.
And he opted for?
I didn't opt for either because I'm still convinced with my action parech, with my obsessive Jerusalem trip, that the two can be merged.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Combine.
I
Of
can
course.
tell you how, but I would be accused of being a prophet in my own city, and I rather wouldn't.
Well, there is a price to pay for Jerusalem.
There always has been, and
Does-
there always will be, for every single person who has ever set foot or loved or worked or studied in this city.
Doesn't come cheap.
Why should it? It's the specialist place on the planet. It is the origin of all the energy and love and creativity on planet Earth. And I believe in love and creativity and planet Earth.
Do you think the way that Hannah sees Jerusalem is somewhat similar to the way that you see
Not
Jerusalem?
in
or
any way.
Not in any way.
She's a totally tranquil individual who has come to terms with everything in her life and made all the necessary choices and is there calmly doing it on a day-to-day basis.
What's
Her
the source
her
of this
livelihood,
difference in perception? Why?
well, her livelihood doesn't actually depend on the people that come in and out of that, cubbyhole. On the other hand, she understands by being a Jerusalemite and having chosen Jerusalem over Geneva and everything that means, it was a simple choice for her. It was a straightforward choice for her, not for me. Because I don't come from the world of spiritual seekers who want some kind of recipe to be happy.
Her family didn't like it, she said.
Ignore it.
It wasn't easy.
The family doesn't matter an iota in her case. The family matters absolute. With Mali, and with Shir, and with Shoshi, and with Sancha, and with Dubuli, this is my world. I have days upon days, Itzhaki, when my phone doesn't ring, because I've done nothing but look for the good of Jerusalem for 44 years. It may have carried me to the other ends of the earth, but it was all for and in the name of Jerusalem.
But again, it's interesting for me. Why for Hannah, Jerusalem is a sort of equanimity? I found it. It's peace. And for you, it's also a source of agitation. What's
It's
this?
not a source of agitation, it's a source of
Conflict.
of creativity, which actually acts as a conflict to the other things which I believe in as a human being.
Okay, put it differently. In your case, you feel you've got to do something metaphysical, like all the maps.
I
and
think
effort.
the basis has to be metaphysical,
Yes.
but that the actual doing has to be totally physical.
But why for her and for the other guys, though?
Because she doesn't know yet anything about the spiritual world which Jerusalem can be. And she remains and chooses to remain firmly rooted in the soil of Jerusalem. I can't. Because I have to be on the other side of the world worrying about...
Where is your gin and tonic?
Hello again.
Hi, David.
Hi.
Where is your gin and tonic?
We enjoyed the coffee immensely. The gin and tonic is on me next time round.
Don't worry, don't worry.
You know, at Ben Gurion Airport,
Yeah?
You can't imagine how much you love Jerusalem.
Okay.
You keep telling us
He's not the only one.
it's a love story.
People are killing themselves
It's a-
over it.
Yes,
I
yes.
hope they find the strength and the love to embrace over it too.
It should bring love together, people together, not separate.
You're absolutely right, my friend.
Yeah.
Everybody I meet in Jerusalem is really sweet and nice and friendly and peaceful.
Ah, you haven't seen my
All
other
the people
side.
I've met.
You haven't seen his other side.
Samir, you're my other side, not what you think this is.
Has you seen the other side?
He means the Israeli occupation.
This side.
Don't you realize?
No.
He means the Israeli forces of occupation, of police and army and constant confrontation on the Temple Mount.
You mean the outside of Benji? Okay,
And the hassles he has every time he wants to leave the country with his wife. I have to apologize, but he's dead right. There is an opposite side of the sweetness and light. Nobody in Jerusalem wants to know what there is beyond that door. You spend all your effort finding a way to turn the handle so that you can go through that door to go to another door. And behind every door there's another closed door and another wall. You cannot discern Jerusalem's secrets.
I want to ask you again. Can you turn Jerusalem into a source of equanimity for yourself?
I believe it's possible with this business plan that I've drawn up, and I've spent a long time going into all the details, which I showed you 2 or 3 of the illustrations from. Okay, I've got a 2-kilo business plan, which doesn't even touch upon money. As to how to put all this stuff together for the greater equanimity of people who come here, people who work here and love here and study here and hate here.
But is it possible, is it possible that the very existence of a business plan prevents you from ever actually relaxing in Jerusalem?
Possibly.
It's possible.
But I can't give it up. I've come so close to giving it up totally and utterly and saying, take it away from me.
No, what I mean, for the guys who live in Jerusalem, they don't need a business plan, they just leave Jerusalem.
Correct.
My father, when he lived in Jerusalem,
correct,
he was part of Jerusalem.
Correct, but I'm aspiring to assemble a theme park, a geo-information theme park, which will be in the prize real estate of the whole Jerusalem area, because there is nowhere like it, there is nowhere equivalent to it, and it actually has to start with a little cave where there is a trickle of water, and which I will be selling elves and fairies and underworld characters, and from there go on to much heavier geographic information.
But I kind of feel that it's almost like taking a Tel Aviv mindset and imposing in Jerusalem.
No way.
But Jerusalem doesn't need this Mickey Mouse
Jerusalem doesn't need me.
No, it needs you. It
Jerusalem doesn't need my business plan.
Theme park.
It doesn't mean meeting together all the people that over the decades I've not put together, but I've collected one by one for the day when all of these things can come together. None of it is going to happen until there's angel VC money. And I'm awfully sorry, but what you need to start with is a business plan.
Yes, David.
Can you pause that for a second? Say hi to the camera.
Camera, hey!
People in Manchester will be
making you into a movie star.
Of course. I'm making lots of films while I'm over here.
Yeah?
Yeah. And one of them is a documentary which I'm calling Jerusalem Syndrome. Which is about how Jerusalem has Jerusalem Syndrome and how the world has Jerusalem Syndrome. Okay. That's my theme. The other one is about Tel Aviv. Anyway, nice to meet you.
You see those 3 asses in the background? Catch them.